In this podcast, I will talk about two recently popularized perspectives in economic theory that I think have a lot of promise. The first is post-Keynesian theories like modern monetary theory. These emphasize the role of fiscal policy and argue that the monetary system is fundamentally a legal construct. For a country with its own floating currency, the only constraints on fiscal policy are inflation and unemployment. If a government keeps its levels of deficit spending too low, it can risk unemployment. If it spends too much, it risks inflation. Post-Keynesians treat taxes, levels of spending, primarily as regulators of aggregate demand and the overall money supply. Taxes destroy money, spending creates it. There is no crowding out of private sector debt caused by government spending, and MMTers/post-Keynesians dispute the role of the money multiplier as commonly understood. Banks can borrow directly from the Fed. The Fed will expand the monetary base if interest rates slip from targets, making the money multiplier a useless formality of interest rates and fiscal policy, the real drivers of the money supply. It's a continuation of older Keynesian thought, but with a more sophisticated understanding of the monetary supply. I think the main limitation on this train of thought is the mechanism through a wish to stabilize the economy. They advocate for a separation between aggregate demand stabilization and employment stabilization, providing full employment and price stability. One commonly proposed mechanism for this is a job guarantee, wherein a government agency would provide employment to all unemployed people. The macroeconomic justification for this is reasonable. The politics and microeconomics of this is not. It would be an administrative train wreck. There would be difficulties with creating socially useful employment in sufficient quantities, particularly running this program in a near full employment economy. There would be issues of hiring and firing while still maintaining the universal nature of the program. Sounds good in theory, but it would be hard to put into practice. Also, post-Keynesians tend to rely very heavily on discretionary policy by policymakers in response to fluctuations. This is problematic. Politicians tend to handle this very poorly. They either do what the US and EU has done with the ongoing economic depression, or are not nearly aggressive enough in their policy making. They way overspend, like in Venezuela, and endanger inflation. Stabilization of the economy should be on autopilot. The second newish perspective in economic policy making that I have sympathy towards is market monetarism. This is an extension of classic monetarism. The idea that central banks should stabilize the level of growth of the money supply. This has benefits over targeting inflation and/or price stability because there are clear ways that central banks can attempt to meet such a target, and money supply target lacks some of the more arbitrary factors involved with other potential targets. But they bring a twist to this idea. They argue that central banks should target nominal GDP growth instead of the money supply. Prediction market can be used to determine the right level of money to inject into the economy to make this target. It's nice, clean, and mechanistic. And GDP target has other benefits. It handles supply shocks like oil price increases or food price increases or other commodity price increases pretty well compared to other targets. Inflation/price stability targeting advise a massive bout of austerity in response to a supply shock, causing a depression and/or extreme unemployment. Employment targeting would advise the exact opposite, triggering a wage price spiral and very high inflation. And GDP targeting advise a balanced intermediate solution. Where market monetarists fall down is on their very strong reliance on monetary policy. They effectively think that NGDP could be stabilized by mass purchases of financial assets by central banks, quantitative easing on steroids. This is problematic. Monetary policy, particularly when interest rates are low, is quite weak. The level of purchases by central banks should be 1. Very large, and 2. Involve potentially problematic categories of asset like foreign currency and the debt of private companies. However, to get back to the point of this whole thing, I think it's possible to merge these two perspectives. Market monetarists are quite good at defending the NGDP target as a good target for macroeconomic stabilization, but yet to convince me that monetary policy has what it takes to accomplish this. Post-Keynesians are quite good at defending the proper role of fiscal policy, but their exact policy proposals are problematic. Two ideas can be merged. Target NGDP with fiscal policy. Act a basic income plan or some other highly flexible form of fiscal policy with the exact levels of payment set based on meeting the NGDP target. A prediction market could be useful for setting this level. You could even take this further and merge fiscal and monetary policy, set interest rates at a constant level, and fund government deficits for creating a new monetary base.